Mr. Carlos Roca is a part-time professor at the Inter-American University for the School of Aviation. He has a master's degree in aviation science from Rico Aeronautical University. He has 4.5 years of experience with Gulfstream Aerospace, 7 years with NetJet. He is a commercial broker real estate, and after 15 years in the US, he came back to Puerto Rico to develop a stronger aviation and aerospace industry. Please welcome Mr. Carlos Roca.
Thank you. As part of this panel, I'm going to present some bios on the panelists, starting with Mr. Vicente Nazario. He's the ISC Director, Puerto Rico Site Leader of Honeywell Aerospace. Vicente Nazario is the Director and Site Leader for Honeywell Aerospace Puerto Rico. Honeywell Aerospace Puerto Rico provides support to manufacturing operations in North America and to Honeywell customers worldwide. Vicente has a multidisciplinary background with over 20 years of experience in manufacturing engineering, project management, quality assurance, and operations management within the electronics, medical devices, and aerospace industries. He's a supply chain executive with extensive professional material management experience in global supply chain, leading changes, managing turnaround initiatives, and posturing organization for sustainable changes. Lead global operation planning forecasting process which optimizes total inventory investment, procurement, product lead time, and major improvement on delivery reliability to customers. He also established tactical global strategy, procurement, and share service organization which resulted in major ongoing cost improvement from 8 to 10% direct indirect expenses aligned with the R&D initiatives. Represents global supply chain shareholder in the following governance executive committee forums: innovation, risk management, and sales operation planning, and product life. Proven leader in global new acquisitions, major restructuring, organizational transformation. Vicente graduated from Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, with a degree in electrical engineering and applied physics, and also holds a general science degree from the Pontifical Catholic University of Puerto Rico in Ponce. Welcome, Vicente Nazario. Second panelist, Mr. Antonio Medina Comas. Mr. Antonio Medina has the mission to position Puerto Rico as a global leader in the knowledge and innovation economy, driving economic development and new jobs to the island. PRICO's executive director has dedicated a great part of his professional career to the execution of strategic projects with over 20 years of experience at Merck. From the Americas to Europe and Asia, Medina has occupied several positions, most recently as a chief finance officer at Merck in Brazil. His academic credentials include a master's degree in business administration from the Wharton School of Business of the University of Pennsylvania, and both a master and bachelor degree from the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute of New York. Spanish is his native language, but he also speaks English and Portuguese. Responding to an invitation to serve the people of Puerto Rico, Medina Comas was appointed and confirmed as executive director of the Puerto Rico Industrial Development Company, PRICO. He's been in charge since January 2013 as part of the cabinet of Puerto Rico's Governor Alejandro Garcia Padilla. Welcome, Mr. Medina. Obrigado for being here. Our third panelist is Dr. Carlos Rivera Velez, President, Puerto Rico Manufacturer Association, Vice President and General Manager of Puerto Rico Operations at Irving Balloons Manufacturing, Edwards Life Sciences Corporation. Mr. Rivera Velez currently serves as Vice President of Manufacturing and General Manager for the Edwards Life Sciences Manufacturing Operation in Puerto Rico and its counterpart of medical balloons in California. Edwards, world leader in the design, manufacture, and distribution of medical devices, specifically those related to heart valves and hemodynamics monitoring. Previously, he has held executive positions at Johnson & Johnson, Allergan, Advanced Medical Optics, and Digital Equipment Corporation. He's also an entrepreneur. In addition to his leadership in multiple extracurricular activities in several fields, he's the president of the Puerto Rico Manufacturing Association. He holds a BS in engineering from UPR Mayagüez, master's in management and technology from Wharton Business School, University of Pennsylvania, and a PhD in history of Puerto Rico and the Caribbean from el Centro de Estudios Avanzados de Puerto Rico y el Caribe. He's also a licensed professional engineer and a certified Six Sigma Black Belt. He's happily married with Yvonne and has 5 children: Juan Carlos, medical student; Glorimar, art student; Carlitos, biology agronomy student; and Jose Carlos, high school student; and Coralis, high school student. He has been a change agent and distinguished achiever in manufacturing operations by promoting innovation and entrepreneurship through the empowerment and optimization of his more valuable resource, his human capital. Among some of the many recognitions he has received in recent years are Puerto Rico Industrial of the Year 2013, Puerto Rico Industrial of the Year, Southwestern Industrial Association 2012, Edwards CEO Global Award for Building Communities 2011, and Manufacturing Leader of the Year 2010 by the SME. Welcome, Dr. Rivera Vélez. Our fourth and final panelist is Mr. Gabriel Hernandez, co-chairman of Puerto Rico is the Answer. Gabriel Hernandez is certified public accountant, a graduate of the University of Puerto Rico with a bachelor's degree in business administration, magna cum laude, is an expert providing tax consulting services to clients in the United States and Puerto Rico, including structuring mergers, acquisitions, and outbound and inbound investments. Presently, Hernandez is the head of the tax division at BDO Puerto Rico, a firm he founded together with Fernando Scherer 14 years ago. Hernandez is also the head of tax for the Caribbean for BDO International, the 5th largest global accounting firm with over 1,000 offices and 56,000 employees throughout the world. BDO is the 2nd largest CPA firm in Puerto Rico, serving a portfolio of over 600 clients through a talented group of more than 120 professionals. He has been a member of the Puerto Rico State Society of Certified Public Accountants since 1990 and the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants since 1998. He's also a member of the board of directors of Sapientis, a nonprofit organization that develops programs to stimulate change in public education in Puerto Rico, a member of the board of trustees of St. John's School, and a member of the executive advisory committee of the Puerto Rico chapter of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Welcome, Mr. Hernandez. We're definitely all here to move the island along in the aerospace world and other industries that would propel us to be all those great cities in the world, but of the Caribbean. Now I would like to invite the panel, Mr. Nazario, Mr. Medina, Dr. Rivera, and Mr. Hernandez to come up. Thank you. We'll start the panel with some questions. We'll start with Mr. Gabriel Hernandez.
Hello.
Okay, the first question is, are laws 20 and 22 only for investors? Can scientists, engineers take advantage of said laws if they were to move their residence to Puerto Rico?
Absolutely. And before I start, thank everybody to be here today with us. And definitely, people who are scientists and engineers can also take advantage of Acts 20 and 22. And I'll give you an example so you can see this evolving. If we have a scientist or an engineer that is operating in Puerto Rico and services markets outside Puerto Rico, he will be entitled to an access to Act 20, which will allow him to generate the service income associated with his services at a 4% income tax rate. So definitely Act 20 will be of application. Act 22 will be of particular interest to those who may be developing intellectual property, so that they may be looking at some future point to monetize and sell the product of their creation. Act 22 will provide them with no tax on capital gains with respect to any appreciation of those properties that occurred while they were a resident of Puerto Rico. So definitely, both Act 20 and 22 definitely will be of application to them.
Thank you. Second question.
Okay.
Can laws 20 and 22 operate separately?
Yes, and we've seen that in some circumstances. Act 20 does not have a requirement that the owner of the entity enjoying the Act 20 benefits be residing in Puerto Rico. So we've seen the Act 20 functioning in a number of scenarios, including a multinational group placing in Puerto Rico functions that will be of service to the rest of the members of the group outside Puerto Rico. So we have a subsidiary then that is in Puerto Rico taking advantage of Act 20. There'll be one scenario. So there is no particular requirement, therefore, that the owner of the Act 20 company be in Puerto Rico and enjoying the Act 22 benefits. So in broad terms, those benefits, when combined, are super powerful, but they can separately be implemented.
Great. And one last question. How long are the tax incentives for and the duration?
Yes, the Act 20 benefits are for 20-year periods and may be renewed. And the Act 22 benefits last through the year 2035.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Yeah.
On to Mr. Medina. We have a few questions, more than three. Mr. Medina, can you explain the benefits of Law 73 for the MRO industry?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity of being here. To me, it's a privilege to be part of the aerospace segment and to really have seen the incredible growth that we are having in Puerto Rico in the aerospace segment. Together with the leadership of Secretary Bacó and along with PRMA, the construction cluster, and many other organizations, we are seeing the growth and really the moment in which aerospace has defined that it's here to become a significant part of the economy. Now, within that, during the last couple of years, we've made some changes to Law 73 to basically include all aspects of aerospace. I do remember a phone call from Vicente Nazario about 2 years ago, where he approached me and he said, you know, Antonio, Honeywell is doing a significant investment in Puerto Rico. This was before we even started talking about the labs. We're seeing a growth in the industry, but Law 73 does not directly include aerospace as a segment that we provide incentives to. So we actually together worked some language and passed legislation to amend the definition of Law 73. So today, any activity under aerospace can be provided incentives under Law 73. And what does that mean for a company? Basically, you can get a certain tax rate, typically 4%, but then if you're doing pioneer technologies, it can actually be lower than 4% on the income tax side. You can get royalty withholding rates of 8 to 12%. That is if you bring intellectual property from outside of Puerto Rico and you have to pay royalties. You can get job creation incentives, infrastructure incentives. There's even certain incentives that we provide at PRICO, typically for smaller companies in terms of export and marketing expenses. So what I would recommend is I welcome all of you in the aerospace segment to come and talk to us at PRICO. We are happy to help you maneuver through the different legislations. Alberto did mention that there's also Law 20, which is more recent law that was passed during the last administration, which specifically targets exportation of services. That's where we export our thoughts rather than a finished product. Companies like Infosys are doing this. Companies like Aon Hewitt providing human resource outsourcing. So I'm convinced that Puerto Rico not only has the human capital and the right infrastructure for aerospace, but we also have a very significant set of legislations that should allow this industry to grow and thrive. Thank you.
Great. On to next question for you, Mr. Medina. Can free trade zones, together with Law 73, help attract new manufacturing business to Puerto Rico?
A simple answer is absolutely. And let me actually just continue basically on the prior answer. What do we see when we add the federal legislation, and I'm going to include there free trade zones, ITAR and EAR, which I'm sure most of you know about, but these are the requirements for work on the defense industry to happen under the US flag. We have tremendous advantages. Under the free trade zone law, you can actually import and export out of Puerto Rico without incremental taxes at the municipal or state level. Because of ITER and EAR, combined with the cost differential of engineers and scientists in Puerto Rico versus the other jurisdictions in the states, we can provide significant arbitrage opportunities for companies in the aerospace segment. So again, whether it's the free trade zone law, Law 73, Law 20, combined with Law 22 for the investors that come together with their company to establish new technologies, new companies in Puerto Rico, and in combination with the federal statutes that require significant activities in the aerospace industry to happen in Puerto Rico, we really have a great platform. And we need to, first of all, convince ourselves that we are one of the leading jurisdictions in the United States for aerospace and drive strategies both in the private enterprise as well as government to significantly grow this amazing industry. Thank you.
Excellent. On to the next question for Mr. Medina. How are you using the incentive laws to promote the increase of occupancy on Puerto's properties?
Well, excellent. That's actually one additional tool that we have within our arsenal of incentive laws. In this case, it's about the buildings. And well, you know that we're building right now, just about to complete the Honeywell electromagnetic interference lab. That's about a $20 million building with about $20 million of equipment within it. So about a $40 million roughly investment. We just completed, and we're actually inaugurating this weekend, the Lufthansa hangars over in Rodilla, which is state-of-the-art. 5 new hangars for A320s and Boeing 737s, where Puerto Rican hands are going to be repairing these airplanes. We're constructing a building for GE in Arecibo, another $20 million building where we are driving new technology in the industrial breakers segment for General Electric. So in an industry that requires specialized capabilities in building and equipment, Rico has the experience and the capabilities to develop custom-built facilities, and we are able to gain both private financing. In the case of buildings like Honeywell, we actually use Santander as our bank, as well as in some projects we can use government financing. Lufthansa was actually financed by the GDP. So we have a number of tools and a number of programs that, again, we welcome you to come and talk to us, because we can build custom facilities and we can build custom solutions for you. One other example that actually is interesting is I see Jaime over there from Seaboard. In the case of Seaboard, we moved their headquarters from St. Croix to San Juan. And the headquarters of Seaboard, with all the technology where they track all the airplanes, all the different screens where you actually see the planes moving around, all the weather and conditions center, it's in Atoll. It's not a new building. What we did is we took a floor out of the old Western Bank facility, and we worked together with AFI, the Authority for Infrastructure Financing, and we found a great location for Seaboard. And probably most of you didn't know that the headquarters of the Seaboard Airlines, where all the action happens, close to 350 people now working for Seaboard in Puerto Rico. I know I rounded up, but it's somewhere in the 320, 330 people here in Atoll. So that's another example of creative thinking and how do we achieve the right real estate solution for a customer, in this case an airline.
Excellent. There's just one last question. It's probably already been answered, but just with the continue with the program. Do aviation, cyber, and aerospace research and development qualify for tax advantage?
Great question, because I actually had not mentioned that Puerto Rico, and I think most of you know this, has one of the most aggressive research and development laws. we provide a 50% credit on qualified R&D activities. I'm going to say that again, 50% credit. And what's interesting about this credit is that you can actually sell it in the market. Now, I'm not going to say that it's easy to get that credit because you have to prove to Puerto, and we have PhDs that actually go out and verify that the activity is actual R&D. But if you pass that qualification, Treasury will provide you a certificate that you can use for either paying your electric bill, paying your water bill, paying your tax bill, or you can actually sell it to the market. And these credits sell between 85 and 90% at the peak of the tax season. So it's a very interesting law that I think is significantly underutilized.
Excellent. That concludes the questions from Mr. Medina.
Thank you very much.
Now to Dr. Rivera. We have three questions.
If you want, go ahead with the three questions.
Huh?
Yeah, go ahead with the three questions. If you
Okay,
want. This is
so-
going to be interesting because I'm a medical device manufacturer talking about aerospace. So let's see how it goes.
All right. So all three questions.
Yeah, go ahead for
Okay.
the three.
So first question is it true that the best time to invest in a manufacturing or service business in Puerto Rico is now?
Okay.
The second question is it possible that enough jobs could be created in all federally regulated industries to revert the brain drain? And three, what are the steps needed for the government, private sector, and academia to successfully put together a comprehensive plan to fully develop all federally regulated industries businesses, including aviation, cybersecurity, and aerospace?
Interesting, first two are easy to answer, absolutely yes. The time is now. We get to get into that, but anyway, first of all, I don't know who doesn't know PRMA, so let me put some perspective on this. At the end of the day, like I say, I do not know a lot about aerospace, but I love aviation. I'm a fan of flying. I fly, 2 or 3 times, I would say, every 6 or 7 weeks. And, I dreamed when I was a child to be an astronaut, and I finished doing a PhD in history. So, bear with me. Anyway, what I want to do with the three questions is put a practical side to this. Because, when I put my hat of Vice President of Manufacturing, I can speak to many of the things that Antonio said. First of all, the Puerto Rico Manufacturers Association, we represent like 50% of Puerto Rico's GDP. We're around 70% when we put the whole ecosystem together of our economy. So, I was here in the previous presentation talking about 1 trillion. That's a big number. Puerto Rico's economy is around $103 billion. And out of that, in our umbrella, we represent like $70 billion of that. And I say all of that because I want you to know that we, more or less like 2 or 3 years ago, probably a little bit more, we were very aware of the importance of the aerospace sector. And since then, we have in our board of directors, aerospace membership representing the sector. Vicente, was one of our distinguished board members. Arnaldo Soto is today one of our board members and the aerospace cluster leader, which, by the way, Vicente used to be that leader, is also in the board. So again, that means that, when we speak aerospace, more than speaking with our heart, we are speaking, very objectively in terms of the importance of this sector for the development of Puerto Rico. Knowing that in order to have a prosperous and a sustained country, we need to have a diversified economy. And it's not only about traditional manufacturing, it's not about agriculture and tourism. It's also about, spearheading very assertively, these emerging sectors like aerospace, like innovation, like research and development is. What I can tell you from the manufacturing standpoint is that my experience, and by the way, we have not orchestrated this together and we haven't talked about this before coming here, but my experience is, first of all, that the main thing, my company, which is Edwards, again, we do hemodynamic monitoring catheters in Puerto Rico since 1972. And why we're here is, first of all, is for the talent of our people. Not only at the professional level, managerial level, but also at the technical level and manufacturing skills force level. You know, very clever people, very creative, very well educated. And I don't know in many other countries, you know, but at least in Puerto Rico, our people give the extra mile. If they need to work 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever it is, they are there for the business. And they're extremely loyal. And that's very, very important. Puerto Rico being a powerhouse for I would say the last, 4 or 5 decades, you know, we know what manufacturing is all about. We know what servicing manufacturing is all about. And interesting, you know, we have evolved through these years to be able to manage complex manufacturing and manage complex issues as a result of manufacturing. And I'm pretty sure, you know, that was one of the main items that Lufthansa picked when deciding to come to Puerto Rico. I was with Elmer a month and a half ago, visiting his facilities, and I was very, very, you know, positively surprised. But I was more surprised and very, very proud knowing that Puerto Rican hands are going to be managing that complexity, which is keeping people in the air for so many, many hours and taking them, you know, safe to their destiny. And again, that's the main, I would say, reason why we are here in Puerto. We have been here in Puerto Rico since '72, and when I go anywhere in the world and I promote Puerto Rico, that's my main, you know, anchor of promotion, our Puerto Rican talent. And I heard earlier, you know, talking about our universities and all of that, and it is a fact. You know, the product of that talent is the very good educational system that we have in Puerto Rico. Second is the quality of our products and our services. It is there. Third is the infrastructure, and by the way, in no means this is in an order. Fourth, I would say that in terms of taxes, we don't have anything to envy any other country in the world. Okay? That is a reality. Medina was talking about the R&D credits. I have personally, you know, worked on that, and my company have benefited from these incentives doing R&D in the manufacturing side of the world, because we also do R&D. And last but not least, you know, there's something that I always remember. 3 or 4 years ago, Rico and I went together to our headquarters in Irvine, California. And we were presenting, you know, to the president of the division in California. And after we did our pitch and all of that, one of the things he said, which I always, again, use because it's very powerful, and sometimes we don't see it because we're inside the woods, and we're not outside the woods. He said, you know what, guys? You have something that you don't promote, and it's the flexibility that Rico has in always being creative and always looking for a solution to the issue, knowing that business is dynamic. Compared to Singapore, you know, when you sign in blood, you are signing in blood. And you better do, you know, what you say you were going to do, because if not, we need to go back to the table and we need to discuss business. You know, in Puerto, and it's my personal experience, we always look for, you know, for a way to be, you know, to identifying, you know, the challenges of the business and looking for a way to, at the end of the day, you know, making sure that we do what we're supposed to do. Or in exchange, you know, something very similar, but with the same results. Because what he says, Medina said earlier, is a reality as well. This is not like you go there and say, hey, Baco, Medina, I need $5 million. I'm going to be, you know, generating 150 jobs. And by the way, go, goodbye, and I'm going to cash checks as we committed. No, it's not about that as well, you know. It's doing what we said, and it's also undergo to rigorous auditing to ensure that, you know, the promises that were made are accomplished. So again, you know, my side of it, you know, is the practical side. It's not about, you know, rocket science what I'm talking about, but it's the real thing. You know, that doing business in Puerto Rico since 1972, you know, we don't regret a single deal, a single instance of not doing business in Puerto Rico. My operation is a 1,200 person operation. You know, it's a 600,000 square foot campus. It's a pretty, you know, size of an operation. And, you know, I am always very willing and open to discuss with anybody the good things of doing business in Puerto Rico. And with this I'm done. You know, that doesn't mean that everything is perfect. We do have challenges, but the key to those challenges, to answer the last question, is continue to work together to ensure that we keep on promoting Puerto Rico, not only locally, but also internationally. And that each of us, you know, we become industrial ambassadors You know, and we, the private sector, lead and the government facilitate. And that's for me the secret of success. So I appreciate the three questions.
Excellent, Dr. Rivera. And now to okay.
Yeah, I'll take questions one by one.
Okay. We are dynamic here, so we can adjust to that. Okay, Mr. Nazario, the first question is, what has been Honeywell's major growth driver in Puerto Rico?
So first of all, thank you. I'm really thrilled for the opportunity to share some time and thoughts with you today. The major driver for growth in Honeywell, it's easy for me and it's one word, and I just want to stress Dr. Rivera's statement that we did not meet previously and we did not synchronize our answers. So the answer is talent. Why we have kept on growing, it's the people from Puerto Rico. See, when Honeywell started in Puerto Rico, when Honeywell Aerospace started in Puerto Rico about a decade ago, close to 9 years, it was supposed to be a small operation just to do IT development. And why IT development? Because we had great universities in Puerto Rico graduating great IT professionals, programmers, software engineers. We've talked about this in this conference today all day. So that was probably the major reason to invest in Puerto Rico. But it was supposed to be, at best, in a 5 to 10 year periods, grow to about 200 people. And it was supposed to be IT. That was the charter of the organization, and that was the plan. That was early 2007. By late 2007, those initial 12 people that we hired, mostly in IT fields and cybersecurity, were 49 already, and included people from sourcing, included people from customer and product support, because other functions within Honeywell started seeing the opportunity in Puerto Rico, the easiness of getting great talent, so availability and quality of talent. We moved into a brand new building by the beginning of 2008, 25,000 square feet building in Guanajibo, Mayagüez, brand new. It was supposed to give us enough room to grow at least 5 years to 200 people. And if by any chance we grew more than that, we had another brand new building right next to it where it could accommodate our growth. Fact is, as Honeywell started and continued to know better Puerto Rico and the people of Puerto Rico and the talent, and that they were starting to really deliver, other functions within aerospace started to try to get in. By late 2008, we were close to 200 people, and with plans to grow to about 800. Talent-driven, purely talent-driven. Today, we are close to 1,000. And it's not only IT. Roughly half of that is engineering, but we do have supply chain. Actually, we have one of the largest procurement hubs of Honeywell in the world here in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. We do have marketing professionals, we have finance, we have program management, we have legal, we have IT, we have sales, HR, quality, manufacturing, engineering, even when we do not manufacture, just because the quality of our people has delivered. This was back about 400 employees ago, with the vice president of human resources from Honeywell, and he told me, Vicente, we continue to grow here, you continue to grow here, because the people of Puerto Rico delivers, because you have gone above and beyond any expectation. As I mentioned before, that was about 400 employees ago. Last year, and I will end up with this, last year when we announced the Mocha Lab, that we will be opening, actually we start moving people next month. The president of Aerospace came to Puerto Rico, And when he was speaking, we had an all hands meeting, a town hall meeting with all our employees. He was addressing our employees. And the first words he mentioned was, everything that is announced here today is because of you. So I'll leave it there. I think that takes the message home. The talent of Puerto Rico is superb.
Excellent. On with the second question, which goes into the new lab. What is the importance of the new electromagnetic interference lab for Puerto Rico?
You guys know what is electromagnetic interference and why it's important? Well, it is really, you know, electromagnetic interference is really an old science field, but it's a core, it's medular for the aerospace industry because everything that flies, you know, has to be tested for EMI, for electromagnetic interference and compatibility. It is becoming, by the day, more important for the aerospace industry just because we continue to add electronics into our aircraft, more denser electronics, more complex electronics there in the equipment. We continue to bombard our atmosphere with all kinds of waves, radio wave, microwave. Now we want to be connected at all time, even when we are on the air. We want our smartphones to work, and our tablets to work, and our computers to be connected. So all that creates potential electromagnetic interference into the plane's instruments, into the aircraft instruments. So it is a very important field and becoming more important. There are not many experts of this in the world, and it's core for the aerospace industry. This was not done in Puerto Rico before. So there are, as I see it, there are at least 3 advantages for Puerto Rico on opening the lab. The first one, and the one that comes to mind for everyone, is jobs created. How many jobs were created? Well, with this laboratory, we committed about 300 new jobs, so that's important. But besides that, that is a field that our engineers in Puerto Rico were not exposed. That's opening a new door to a core, to a medular field of science for our engineers in Puerto Rico to know and to become expert. As I mentioned before, there are not many experts in the world in this kind of field. So that expertise will reside in Puerto Rico, will be local to Puerto Rico, and will assure continued growth in that industry for many years to come. And the other one is because the laboratory itself, it's a piece of art. It is really cool, and I'm really proud of it. It is a state-of-the-art. It's going to be the most advanced laboratory for Honeywell in the world on that field, which, as I mentioned before, is a core field. So that just expands. It just expands the value proposition of Puerto Rico to aerospace. Not only can we do great manufacturing, and can we offer great services, and can we offer a great MRO with Lufthansa coming in, and we can do great design work because we have proven that we can also do research and development on a core medullary field for the industry.
Well, I feel compelled to add, because the question is, what does it provide to Puerto Rico? And I think that Vicente did a great job. But it's actually bigger than that. I see Jose and Rossi over there, and I want to publicly thank Jose and Rico, as well as our friends from the other companies that participate in the construction. I remember July 4th, 2013, at 8 a.m., because the senior leadership of Honeywell was in Puerto Rico, and we were asked to meet with them at the governor's office. And we were told in that meeting that if we came in with the right proposal and we met Honeywell's requirements, they would do a very significant expansion in Puerto Rico. And that's the initial meeting where we started discussing what today is a reality. Hosian actually participated directly in putting together the building, as I did, as well as the folks from Honeywell. And in many of the meetings, I would tell the people, we're not building a building, we're building an industry. The Mocha Industrial Park was dormant for a decade since it was conceptualized back on the HP expansion days in the late 90s. And today I can say with a lot of pride that we've put in the first high technology, high requirements ITAR building in Mocha on what in the future should be the most important industrial park for the aerospace business in Puerto Rico. And I truly I'm grateful to Honeywell, Vicente, Alfredo, Rob, Frank, Tim Mahoney, the president of Honeywell's Aerospace, because they actually gave us the opportunity. And along with the experience, I was in a meeting in February at the Honeywell's facilities in Washington, D.C., where their head of government affairs said to me, Antonio, you sold us this building. You're personally responsible for delivering it on time and on budget. And I'm very proud to say that we are close to doing the opening of the building, the formal grand opening. And the building was on time and on budget, and it was built by Puerto Ricans, by Puerto Rican contractors, IDECO, CMA, and CPM. We had a number of Puerto Rico construction companies involved in the project. And it's probably one of the proudest projects, or one of the most important projects for me, and the ones I'm making the proudest in terms of my time at Rico. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to add one tiny thing which I really feel is very important and speaks tons about Antonio and his group and what they've done for us. Probably 6-7 months ago, we met with Antonio, and he told me, Vicente, you have me working for you. And you have me working for you was because he told me, I'm back to be a project engineer. I'm following daily the commitment we made with your building. And that really speaks tons about Antonio and his team, about his commitment for Puerto Rico and about what he's done. When we started talking about this building, and in that original meeting, Honeywell said, if you give me the right delivery time for what we need, we will be there. All the faces was, it is going to be impossible to meet. It is being delivered on time today. So, thank you, Antonio.
Excellent. We just have one more to wrap it up for Mr. Nazario. How do you foresee the future of aerospace in Puerto Rico?
How do I foresee the future of aerospace in Puerto Rico? Secretary Bacó has talked about a lot of opportunities, some of them already becoming reality. If you had asked me that question a little over a decade before, in the past, I would have said, well, tell me a little bit more about aerospace. Well, what is this aerospace thing? Because really it was an unknown industry in Puerto Rico. And if you're an investor and you want to invest in some place, Puerto Rico specifically, why would you invest in Puerto Rico if you are an aerospace investor and an aerospace company? If Puerto Rico did not have any background in aerospace. When we speak pharmaceuticals, everybody knows Puerto Rico. In a pharmaceutical crowd, biopharma, medical devices, everybody knows Puerto Rico. We are an important player there. We have everything in place. We have the talent, we have the infrastructure, we have everything. That is becoming a reality now for aerospace. We have over 3,000 jobs now, and I'm using Secretary Baco's numbers, expected to double within the next year or so. Great momentum, great opportunities, great talent. We already have proven that we can do all the things that I've said before that we can do. We have over 1,000 engineers now doing design work in Puerto Rico, many of them with years of experience already doing it. So now we have something more to offer. Besides our talent, besides our incentives, Antonio mentioned the R&D section of Act 73. That is very important. That is one of the most competitive in the world. Told to me by site selectors, people who live doing this and looking at other locations in the world, it is very competitive, and it has been very important for Honeywell. We do have Puerto that has been an ally for us. We do have the academia that has been very active in getting proactively involved with aerospace, supporting the industry, changing their curriculums. We have a very proactive academia. So when you put all that together, it really provides a great scenario to continue growing this industry. So I believe we're still at an infant stage, and it can become a giant for Puerto Rico.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much to all the panelists. Thank you very much, Secretary Baco, for being part of this event. With this, we close this panel. And, thank you.